Bertrand-François La Bourdonnais played an important role in the French naval forces. He played an important part in the struggle between the British and the French. He was a French naval commander. His first 5 years of administration was vigorous and successful. The game that you see in front of you is a variation of the French you don't see very often. After e4, e6, instead of the typical d4, white plays f4. And this is known as the La Bourdonnais variation of the French defense. This is the model game that you're looking at now, how it's supposed to be played. But then you're going to see a game in which black did not play precisely and in fact made some inaccuracies. You're going to see that in the next game. All right. Preserving the dark square bishop, black refuses the trade of the dark square bishop, wanting to keep the two bishop advantage for the endgame. And one main idea for black in this variation is to play a rook over to g8 and pressure white's king side. Okay, let's get to our game. After e4, e6, f4, which move will be more precise or more active for black's second move? Is it d5 or knight c6? Well, let's try knight c6. And hopefully this won't upset the chess king. I think it did.
Huh? Uh-oh.
Knight c6 turns out to be an inaccuracy. Now, here comes the mad king.
Hear ye, hear ye! Hear ye, hear ye!
Shiver me timbers!
After e4, e6, f4, you chose knight c6. What does this do for you? Precise would have been d5, challenging white's pawn center.
Let's examine. After e4, e6, f4, then you challenge by playing the pawn to d5. Challenge white's control of the center. Knight c3, d4, the knight retreats and you continue with c5 to bolster the d pawn. And black gets a stake in the center with mashed potatoes, followed by bishop e7. But just to learn from mistakes, we're going to continue after knight c6. And seeing that knight c6 is an inaccuracy, we're going to continue after knight c6 anyway. So from this position after knight c6, white will continue with knight to f3. And now knight to f3, and now bishop to c5. And with bishop c5, white does get a tempo here with d4. And the bishop will just drop back to b6. And white's got the classic pawn center, pawn to c3.
Wait, let's go back to move 3 for black, which was bishop to c5. This move allowed white to gain tempo with d2 to d4. Was there another move candidate for black to consider?
That's right. Let's go back to black's third move. We already saw that Bishop to c5 yielded white the opportunity to gain tempo by d2 to d4, but there is another option, and that is the same move, d7 to d5, challenging the center, and this time we can actually take on e4. And after the recapture, knight f6, trade, and the idea here is to pressure white's king side. And notice how the pawns on f4 and d4 need to be guarded. Those are tactical targets for black. Now let's get back to the bishop to c5. Perhaps one school of thought is to allow white to grab the center with pawns only to challenge the center later. But maybe this particular lesson is all about tempo. Now in this position, should black play the knight to g6 or consider some other move such as queenside play with a5? Let's try knight g6.
Uh-oh.
Now here comes the mad king.
Hear ye, hear ye. Hear ye, hear ye.
Shiver me timbers.
I know you're probably thinking that it's a good idea to keep a knight on the king's side to protect the king. The problem with this position is that white's going to advance the G and H pawns, gaining tempo on the knight. Better would have been to challenge white's queen side. For instance,
You know the king is right. Let's examine it. The problem with knight g6 is that first white can play the pawn to g3 to stop the knight from going to h4. Pawn to g3 can be played immediately, and after a6, for example, then h4, and the knight will have to retreat sooner or later. White gains the tempo on the king's side. Therefore, better would have been to play the pawn to a5 instead. For example, let's look at it. Because here, obviously, white gained too much tempo on both sides of the board. So, examining a5, for black's ninth move, pawn from a7 to a5 to gain space on the queen's side. And let's say if white plays a4, then knight b8, knight b3, bishop d7, and there are some trades. Again, pawn to b5 gains even more space. Pawn to b5, and there's a tactic coming up shortly on the a4 square. If rook captures on a4, then it's black who gets the tempo with h6, knight retreats, and now black threatens a discovery on a4. Queen takes e5, knight g6 with more tempo for black. Queen retreats, and now the rook on a4 falls. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for my next video.